Hey, welcome back to the pod. Today I'm talking to Doug Smith. Doug is the Chief Operating Officer of America's Best Restaurants, and he has 30 years of marketing experience in radio and the last 4 years at America's Best Restaurants. He's also a former high school and college sports play-by-play broadcaster in Texas. He's been married for over 27 years and the father of two great kids, Kyle, who's 25, and Kaitlyn, who is 19. And he is on a mission to help independent restaurants create massive attention and excitement to their brands with the goal of helping them grow their restaurants and achieve both their business and personal goals. Well, Doug, I got the coffee. You're in the afternoon. We're going to have a good time. How you doing?
Fantastic. I've got my giant coffee mug, but this is filled with water. This
Wow.
was filled with coffee this morning. Now it's water.
Okay, now you're okay. I was about to say 2 of those a day, that'll do a number on you.
Yeah, I'm always wired.
Oh, I love it, man. I'm curious to know where we can start the conversation because there is a lot of interesting trends of you fighting for the quote unquote little guy, right? Focusing on the underdog. I think there's something in there that we can dive into. Maybe your passion of why you're doing what you're doing and then diving into what you're doing. But then also, interestingly enough, like the restaurant industry, how it's been affected from the last 3 years, like significant changes and shifts. But to leave it to you, like, where do you think we should start on that?
We can start. One of the biggest questions, obviously, when I tell people I work with the restaurant industry is, how is it? How did people make it? COVID was what I call the great equalizer, because what it did was the businesses who were just propped up just because of either location or times were good, but they really weren't running a good operation, their cracks were exposed. Those were the businesses, not just restaurants, but businesses in general, where they went under, and they went under pretty quick because they weren't set on a solid foundation. But the businesses who really had things set up properly, they were running properly, they had systems in place, they may have been a chink in the armor, but they made it through and they've come out stronger on the back end. So the opportunity for businesses to really internalize and look inside and say, man, do we have everything in place? Because there were a number of restaurants that we worked with and or knew that excelled during COVID. There were a number that fell off to the wayside. And the biggest thing was their overall operations, that those that had it in place, they came out on the other end even stronger. That was one of the biggest points of differentiation. And so businesses got a chance to look at themselves and go, whoa, we're doing okay. We made it, but maybe we could do things better.
Interesting. One of the stats, and I heard this a long time ago, so this is obviously outdated, but one of the interesting stats that hooked my attention, it was during in the middle of everything, was that the average cash on hand that restaurants had in New York City, I think that was the case study, was like 16 days. The average cash on hand. So how do you balance that with some of the restrictions and now bouncing back, just in general business terms? Because I think a lot of industries got hit and affected by this. But from what you're seeing, what are some of the trends in terms of key takeaways that every business can follow in terms of having sustainability, or honestly, to be able to take these kinds of punches?
I think it goes back to, again, having your systems in place. And are you streamlined? If you got a lot of fat in the system per se, then you don't really have the ability to survive those type of hits. If you're streamlined, you've got your systems in place on the restaurant side, you know your food costs, you know all the processes, you know your overhead, you know all the little numbers, all the KPIs in the business world, then those were the places that were better off. Now, obviously, when it comes to cash flow and everything else during COVID with prices going up, and I can't tell you how many different either restaurants we worked with or we visited with the media side of our show where they were expecting 50 items to roll off the distributor truck, and they show up and they've got 15, and they're writing on a note real quick going, holy cow, we need this. They hand it to an employee and they go. They got to run to the store to go get it just to be able to make things that they have on their menu for the day. We saw that a bunch. So there were factors that they couldn't control. And I use restaurants as an example because that's what we work with. But I mean, businesses in general, the supply chain was really screwed up. But it's the ability, those that were, again, they were streamlined. They know their numbers. They know their processes. They weren't just winging it. They weren't just flying by the seat of their pants. They were able to pivot correctly and navigate through the waters, which goes back to my first statement. The businesses that were just operating are going, hey, man, things are great. And the P&L looks good and the numbers are great. But they didn't really know their business. Those were the ones who were struggling. So even if it cash flow or their reserves got low, there wasn't as much of a panic because they knew their business.
Yeah.
And those of you that really know the internal numbers of how you operate and what's profitable and your margins and everything else, they came out on the other side much better, because now as the economy turns around, and there's still arguments, is it good, is it bad, whatever. But as we move forward, those businesses are set up so much better. And the one thing that we preach to a lot of different restaurants, and again, I say businesses in general, I have friends who own roofing companies, whatever else, I tell them the same thing. During a down economy, when things aren't so good, you keep your foot on the gas as much as you can, because history has proven when there's an economic downturn or disasters, things like that, it will bounce back. And those businesses that stay aggressive, they know their business, they're really in tune with things. When the economy turns back, there's a hockey stick that goes up. And those businesses that are on top of things will catch that wave and they grow. You can Google it. It's like Microsoft grew that way. Apple grew that way. There's a long list of businesses over the last 40, 50 years through economic downturns. They stayed aggressive and they were smart. When things turned around, they took off. And we're seeing that now with different restaurant brands that stayed aggressive, stayed smart. They ran a good business. Now that things are getting better, it's like a rocket ship for them.
That's interesting. One of the things that I tend not to do in the pod is go very time specific, but I think I'm really curious now, like where we're at in this time, where we're at in the economy. Like labor is one key thing, price points of food, some of the shifts in the what we're seeing in the economy. What are you seeing at ground zero with all the restaurants that you're working at? And we'll talk more about the equalizer piece, but at ground zero with having the right talent, the cost of labor, the cost of expenses are increasing. I'm just curious to see, like, what's the state of play currently?
Yeah, no, great question. The talent pool is, if it's not question one, it's question 1B that we hear. People, I can't find people. Yeah. But here's the ironic thing, though. There are restaurants who we talk to in businesses that they have zero staffing problems. And the one direct correlation, they do a wonderful job of utilizing their marketing, especially social media. Everybody lives on these things right here. Yeah, you can live in your customers' phones. They do a really good job of explaining who they are, why they do what they do, telling a story. It's not all about, in a restaurant space, it's not all about just the food. Yes, we know you have food. We know you serve steaks. We know you serve pizza. So does thousands of other places. What makes you different? Businesses that tell their story and really showcase who they are, they attract people because they look at it and go, man, that looks like a cool place to work, or that seems fun. If you look and sound like everybody else, you are out there fighting for somebody. And if you may pay a back of house person $15, well, someone else comes across and they're going to pay them $16 an hour. They're gone for the extra buck. If you're actively out there promoting yourself in a fun and engaging way, you will attract people to you. So the whole staffing issue, yeah, there's a lot of people out there. Sure, there's people who don't want to work and they're playing the system, whatever else. But the people who truly want to work, they're looking for places that are fun to work at, that seem to care. They don't want to go through the same old rigmarole, if you will. So that's what we find interesting. However, unfortunately, a lot of times it's like we're talking to a brick wall. And we tell people the way you promote yourself, the way that you're out there in the community, you brand yourself and you're out showing people who you are, it will make a difference. Unfortunately, most restaurants, businesses don't do it, even though we have examples of places who are, and they're just killing it when it comes to staffing.
I love it. Let's actually double click on that. I'm not a brand expert for restaurants, but I will tell you this story. It was Mother's Day. We were eating at, up north. I'm in San Diego, so up north with family. And we went to this really cool, it was a beautiful looking restaurant for like lunch, got some pizzas and whatever. And it's competing with a family favorite of, like, the guy's name is Angelo's. The pizza place is called Angelo's. And every pizza he makes has a story about his life, like a place in his life. And I never met the guy. I've only had one slice of pizza. a long time ago when they first moved up there. And I already like that better than when we went, even though the food may have been super delicious because I had a personal connection versus of an entity. So when it
Mhm.
comes to practical steps of community branding, because I think some of the trends, sorry, some of the frameworks that we can take away from this is if you're working in a community, like I'm working in San Diego, makes a lot of sense for me or even for you, like to be publicly known for what you're doing locally, because business starts and trust starts local.
The easiest one, which is missed by countless businesses, is are you branding yourself when you leave your four walls and you're out in the community? It's amazing how many business owners, they'll go to the grocery store, they'll go to the movies, they'll go out to Target, they'll go out to Walmart, whatever, and they're wearing shirts that have nothing to do with their business.
Interesting.
Everything we do, we wear orange. I've had people, actually, I'm not exaggerating, put traffic cones in my front yard at night because they think it's funny and they go, hey, I found some employees for you. Everything we have is orange. You can't get away from it. If people see orange now, they think of us. But just on a basic level, if you own a restaurant and you're going out in public, you're allowing your employees to walk around and not have the name of your restaurant on the back, on the front. You don't have your vehicle wrapped. And then you say, well, people don't know who I am. Well, you're only counting on people who come into your four walls, or maybe they drive by and they see your sign. You should be a walking billboard. You should have your brand all over the place. But think about it. How many people do you know that even own a business and you see them out, or you see them on Zoom, or you see them online, they're on social media, and they've got nothing to do with their business on?
Interesting. Would you suggest this specifically for brick and mortar physical locations, or are you even going as far as saying if you own any kind of business, like you should be repping that?
Oh, anything. Yeah, anything. I mean, pick a color, pick who you are, and project. It's free advertising. It just cracks me up because, again, I have friends who own businesses, and I'll see them on Facebook or on LinkedIn or on Instagram, or I see them wherever, and they're just wearing like a generic, like a Jimmy Buffett t-shirt or something. And I'm like, dude, is Jimmy Buffett paying you? And they go, what do you mean? I go, why are you walking around? You probably paid $50 for that t-shirt. And it's an opportunity to project, to put your name in front of people's eyeballs.
Yeah, it's a relationship. This is what comes back to humans doing business with humans. So interesting. So step number one, if you're not, I mean, I'm clearly not, if you're seeing camera right now, I'm clearly not repping myself. I might be repping other things of leisure, but definitely not myself at the company at this moment. But step number one, have every opportunity be an opportunity to storytell. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like not just the color, cool, whatever, but it's like, why? What do you do? What's important about that in storytelling? So the visual storytelling, what would be as the second next step? What would be some practical steps here?
The second next step is this thing right here is the greatest marketing device ever made. And the majority of people, I can't say everybody, because I'm sure there might be somebody watching this or enjoying this who still has a flip phone. So I can't say everybody, but the majority of the population has that thing, and it's $1,000 plus phone. Yeah. It's not just a phone anymore. They live in it. And it's an opportunity on the digital scope to, what we like to say, own their phone. You have YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. You have all these platforms. And yes, you can run ads on them, whatever else, but you can be on those channels and it costs you nothing. If you own a business page, a restaurant, go live. You have your own, if you have 1,000 followers, or you're like Papa John's that has 6.8 million followers, and that's a whole nother story regarding the big guys and how they're not doing social media the right way. But it doesn't matter if you have 1,000 or 1 million. You can go live. That's the number one way to trip the algorithm. And that's a whole nother deep discussion about how you make the algorithm work for you. But you go live, it's a chance for you to promote that lunchtime special, to promote the band that's performing, to promote a new menu item, to just have a conversation with people. And those people following you get a little notification, hey, Raul's live. And it's a chance for free to live right in here. Because we hear all the time, well, I don't have money to market. Oh, I don't advertise. I don't have this. That is $0 to stay visible. And it's another way on the branding side. If you have somebody who likes your food in the restaurant world, we like to say, if they know you, like you, trust you. They come in, if your food's good, the atmosphere is good, the service is good, and they walk out of there going, man, that was so worth it. It's a chance to stay visible and reinforce that positive experience they had to stay top of mind. So it's free. Branding yourself in public. Pay for some t-shirts for you and your staff. You own the place, for heaven's sakes. When you're walking around town, you should be a walking billboard. Number 2, live in your customers' phones in a creative, fun way. It costs you nothing. 2 of the easiest ways to stand apart from even the big boys, and the majority of people don't do it.
And continue that storytelling. Well, let's lean into that too. So, I mean, we have like that David versus Goliath piece here. And I also hear that and feel that with local businesses, like it's expensive to do this. I only have 500, 1,000, 2,000, 10,000 followers. Tell us more about how to leverage that as a benefit versus like you mentioned very specific names, million followers, 100,000, whatever.
Yeah.
How do we compete that way?
It's called social media, which means socials first, media second. The majority of platform or businesses out there are doing media first, meaning in the restaurant space, it's pictures of your burger, pictures of your pizza. It's cutting the pizza. That's great. It's putting the burger, it's plating it, whatever. It's all about the food. That's media. Social is all about building a relationship, engaging, having conversations. Putting a simple thing, if you're a pizza restaurant, the old tried and true argument is, does pineapple belong on pizza? I'm a pineapple guy, by the way, and a lot of people go, ah. But putting up a simple post of going, okay, we got to know, does pineapple belong on pizza, yes or no? You post that up, you'll get many comments. People start arguing and they'll go back and forth. Guess what? That's engagement. Yes, it could have something to do with your food, but you're having a conversation. You're not just slapping something up there, which is an ad. Too many businesses rely on social media as media. They're always selling, selling, selling. The analogy that I like to make is, if you ever had a friend, family, coworker, relative, I've got one that every time they call you, they're asking for money. Sooner or later, you're like, nah, swipe left. I'm sending them a voicemail. Well, when everything you do is media related, meaning come buy my food, people turn you off. But if you do it on a social, you're having a conversation, you're asking what's their favorite thing. You've got Father's Day coming up, putting up a post that says, hey, I'm the restaurant owner. Here's a picture of me and my dad. He started this restaurant 50 years ago. Put a picture of your dad below and share one of your most favorite memories, and we'll draw a winner for a $50 gift card. We do that for clients, hundreds of comments. I'm not exaggerating, hundreds. We just did it for Mother's Day. Hundreds of comments. Has nothing to do with food. But for Mother's Day, it's not as much Father's Day, because unfortunately, Father's Day, the dads usually have to do the cooking. It's weird. But hey, Dad, we're coming over. You do the grilling. I'm like, well, this isn't fair. But for Mother's Day, restaurants push Mother's Day brunch. Bring your mom in.
Yeah.
Now, you look at 100 restaurants' social media, it's like they're all saying the same thing. Bring mom in, bring mom in.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, we have clients who they push back and they're like, well, yeah, but I got to push my brunch. No, if we can get hundreds of conversations going on your page, you're top of mind. Well, sure enough, they come back and they go, holy crap, that was the best Mother's Day that we've had. We sold out. Yeah, and you didn't even advertise. You were having a conversation. You were being social. You weren't being media. So that's the other part of it, is use it as a conversation. That's what the platforms are built for. It's being social. Do that first. Worry about the media part second.
I think that's key, is extending that relationship. And I was going to actually ask you, bring it home, show us where the ROI is. And clearly you did. Like, help me. I mean, you work with hundreds and a ton of different restaurants. Help me understand the thinking and the frame of mind we have to have if we're going to implement something like this, because we have to trust the process, believe that it works, but also when we're going through the thick of it, what are some of the beliefs that we have to have in place to be able to execute this? Because I mean, asking for, show me a photo of your mom, et cetera, a $50 gift card, you come in top of mind. That's one way and one approach, but I'm pretty sure there's other ways to outsmart what other like you mentioned, focus on media only, ways to outsmart companies with bigger budgets that are just focusing on the media. What are some of the other tactics and what are some of the frames of mind that business owners have to have in place? This is actually going to transform into new customers or more sales and a better experience for the team.
That really is a great question. And it's something that I was actually asked on Monday. I was going to do a video, put it up on LinkedIn about it. So it's cool. We can just do it right here.
Nice.
You have to trust the process in the sake of, as business owners, you typically say, hey, I just invested this. What did I get back right away? Well, we always go back to the fitness analogy. If somebody hasn't been in a gym for 10 years and all of a sudden they sign up New Year's resolutions, I'm going to lose weight and get in shape, and they run into the gym, you didn't put on 100 pounds of extra weight overnight. You ain't losing it overnight. You're not going to jump on a treadmill. Yep, consistency. It's that pound a week. It's the diet, the nutrition. It's a long-term play to say every day, if you jump on the scale, that scale may not move every day. You're making progress. And at some point, you're going to go, holy cow, look at this. I'm down 5 pounds. Hey, I'm going to keep going. I'm down 10 pounds. It's the same thing in the marketing world. And I've seen it. I worked in radio for 30 years. I sold advertising, big market, small market, corporate radio, independent radio. Heard the same thing. Hey, man, I've been running these ads for a couple of weeks. I haven't seen anything yet. Well, you've never advertised before. So what makes you think you're going to sprinkle magic dust and all of a sudden miracles are going to happen? Trust the process and know that you've got to think long term. Understand, yes, there can be some immediate gains, meaning like the Mother's Day post, and you see some engagements and the opportunity to work that. It's a long-term game. And if people are getting into it, any kind of marketing, and they expect immediate results right now, they're going to be really disappointed.
Yeah, it's definitely a long-term approach. And in your perspective, what is a realistic time horizon? 60 days, a quarter, 6 months? What do you think is realistic to trust the process and to start measuring?
Depends on the medium that they're going to use. Like, for example, radio. There was an example that I always used to talk to clients about. There's 3 factors that go into proper radio marketing. You got reach, frequency, offer. Reach is how many people are listening to that radio station. Frequency and offer are the 2 things that you, as the sales rep and the client, have to take into account. How many times does someone have to hear the ad, and what's the offer? Well, the example I always used was, well, if I ran a commercial that said, hey, the first 50 people tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. who are in line get a crisp new $100 bill, I only have to run that thing maybe once or twice. You're going to have plenty of people there. But if your commercial is just generic, talking about, hey, this is who we are, 50 years in business, blah, 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 you got to run the heck out of that thing to try to sink into people's heads. So it goes on that simple thing. Same thing on the digital side.
How pointed the message is versus how broad.
Yeah, what's the overall call to action? The balance would be kind of in the middle. And it works typically that same way for any mass media, direct mail, whatever else you're doing. You're trying to get an action. You're not going to get everybody, but the more you do it, the longer that it's going to go. From the restaurant side, like for our platform, yeah, you can get some immediate results. We flip the switch. You start getting people who are opting in, and your Facebook Messenger starts dinging like crazy. We hear it all the time. People are going, I got to turn off notifications. My phone's driving me nuts. Yeah, cool. You can see some of those immediate results. The real rubber meeting the road is going to be 90 days, 120, 6 months down the road, when you really start getting the people to not only get an offer, but come in and then using that data on the back end to start driving repeat visits. It really comes down to the expectations to say, what are they expecting? Because if I'm talking to somebody and they go, man, I really need this to work, man, these next 60 days, I go, time, we're not a fit for you. It's just, what is the ROI? Okay, what are you expecting? But if you're upfront and you really set those expectations properly, and the client is willing to do what they have to do to understand what's a call to action, what's an offer, what are you willing to do to get somebody to come in and do business with you? If it's all put together properly, yeah, you can see results pretty quick, but the true results are over time.
What are some of the best offers you're seeing right now work?
In the restaurant space, if you do like a free appetizer, BOGO, buy one, get one, even a free dessert. And it's funny. Yeah, I was just in Florida and we have a client and they're going, yeah, I don't want to do just a free dessert. I want to attach it to something. We want, okay, yes, there is the outside chance that somebody could get a free appetizer or free dessert. They come in and they get a glass of water. Their whole thing's free. They don't leave a tip and they leave. That is the minority. The idea behind it is if you look at it, you go, great, I got a $12 appetizer. Your food cost on that is maybe $2 or $3. So for $3, are you willing to give this person something to get them to come into your wonderful restaurant? If the service is good, the atmosphere is good, and the food is good, for that $3, if you do your job and they leave, did you leave a good enough impression? Are you confident enough that you can get them to come back? Well, egos get involved and they go, heck yeah, they're going to come back. I'm like, so for $3, you can get somebody to come in here. We'll do that all day. And that's the idea behind it is what are you willing to do to get somebody to come in? And there's a lot of competition. You're dealing with a lot of trying to get into somebody's brain.
Yeah.
Be aggressive with it. You don't have to give away the farm. But if you're confident in your systems, in your people, in your food, in your atmosphere, that you can get somebody in the restaurant space, those are the best ones right now. It's a free appetizer, buy one, get one entree, or a free dessert.
Okay. And that is to build a relationship because it's, in my opinion, it's not just the first visit, it's the multiple repeat visits.
Exactly. The restaurant world, if you can get somebody to come in 3 or 4 times, you create a habit. So that first time, if someone's marketing with us and we're able to identify someone, a new customer, a frequent customer, or a lost customer, if we can bring in Raul, who's a brand new customer, and you come in the door, you weren't coming in any other way. Cool. And you use a free appetizer. Again, chances are you're going to get something else to eat. Oftentimes we see a ticket is higher by giving someone something for free because in their mind, they're going, hey, dude, I just saved $12, man. I can upgrade this or I can do this. So people are going to spend the money. So if that's what gets you in and everything is really good, once you leave that restaurant, now is where the partnership comes in. Now is where, hey, if you're living in their phone and you're able to stay visible with them and you had a positive experience, if we can get you to come back within that next week or two and go, man, that place was great, dude. I got to take my wife there. I got to take a buddy there. And you come back that second time, now we got you.
Interesting. And it's all around habit creation and then from their lifelong customer or the goal of lifelong habit with the customer.
It is, but here's the other thing, and we hear this often with restaurants. Oh, we've got Raul. He's a regular. I don't need to worry about him. Everybody knows us in this area. That is the biggest fallacy out there. BS. Because we have restaurants who've been around for 30, 40 years. And they'll tell us, they go, yeah, I got people coming in once a week or whatever. They go, yeah, I didn't even know you were here. Where do you live? A couple blocks down that way. Well, how do you not know? I don't know. Because the person never did anything. They never tried to stay top of mind. So the opportunity to drive in that first visit, and that's where data comes into play. That's a whole nother conversation regarding data and being able to effectively target people and market to them when they leave your restaurant. Because life can happen. You may drive by a restaurant that you visit once a week, and all of a sudden a water main breaks, or they're doing road construction. And now for a month and a half, you go a completely different way to your house or to the gym, and you don't pass that. Well, guess what happens after about a month? Out of sight, out of mind, man. So now you may like that other route to work. And now you're not going north-south anymore. You're going east-west. Well, that restaurant just lost you unless they get visible with you.
Yeah, and different changes like moves, different careers, different business, starting a new job, making a move, transferring down. So there's all these different changes. That's pretty interesting to stay top of mind and obviously segment. I'm curious to know, where do you see what's the most exciting trend that you're seeing right now in 2023 in the restaurant industry, and what's exciting you the most from it?
The biggest thing is watching these independent owners, operators realize that they have the ability to, for all intents and purposes, beat the crap out of the big guys and beat them at their own game. And it's fun when that light bulb goes on. We have a restaurant client in Virginia Beach. He's been with us for about 2 years and not a big tech guy. And slowly he started to evolve. He had trouble getting on Zoom calls, that old thing. Now, with some very simple coaching, he's recording videos in his restaurant, editing them on his phone, adding graphics, adding all these transitions in music, and he's having a blast with it. And it's driving additional engagement and conversations to his page. And he's having a blast with it. 24 months ago, he'd have beat me over the head if I tried to tell him to do anything like that. But we're starting to see the evolution of people grasping that, you know what? Number one, it's not that difficult. It's not that scary to be on social media. But two, it truly is the great equalizer. It's the one thing that a local mom and pop small location that does $400,000 a year can do bigger than a multi-million-dollar restaurant chain, is understanding social media, because the independents can pivot a whole lot faster. They can come up with an idea, they can record it, they can put it live on their page, boom. They don't have to go through a bunch of corporate red tape. That's what's fun to me, is you see people starting to understand the power of this thing right here, and they're starting to harness it.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of local and a huge fan of supporting that. Even when I've seen like competitors, like big chains just build in front of the local, like the local company. Like it's disheartening, but it's also cool to root the local to fight and see what they can do. So I love that. For all the listeners here, Jack, what's the best place for people to, one, thank you for being on and learn more about what you're up to?
My email is doug@americasbestrestaurants.com. My mobile, not afraid to give it out, 513-535-9123. And our website is americasbestrestaurants.com.
Cool. We'll put those links in the show notes. Doug, thanks for being on.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Ro.
If you found value in today's podcast, please consider sharing this with someone that you believe could also benefit from this episode. You never know, you may be the catalyst that opens them up to a new way of operating their business and experiencing life. As always, it's an honor to be a small part of your journey. This is Raul Hernandez. Do good work.